Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Helm of the Dominator. Why it broke TI14. Helm of the Dominator is a 2,550 gold item made from a Helm of Iron Will, a crown, and a big ol' recipe. The stats that it gives, which add up to be plus 666 for everything that it offers, are pretty good for the early game, but that's not the reason people are buying it. This item, which is usually only picked up by zoo heroes, the Beastmasters and Lycans of the world, is instead being picked up by goddamn everybody as a farming item. That's right, screw my beloved baby boy Battle Fury, you don't need a Radiance, Maelstrom, who's heard of her. This is the new farming item of Dota 2, and you better learn how to use it well, because this item is taking over the meta at the highest level, and it will trickle down to whatever MMR you're at. The reason why is because of the active that allows you to jump into the jungle and just grab any neutral creep and use any of its spells and auras as if they were your own. However, the spells are only half the fun, because it also buffs that creep like crazy. The Dominated creep gets a huge boost to its attack damage as well as its regen, and raises the minimum HP value up to 1,000, which means that no matter what you get, even if it's the tiny little ghosts or the kobold camp, they're going to be tanky as hell for the early game, and very difficult for enemy heroes to deal with. You can force the creep to abuse itself by tanking camps for you while you use spells and right clicks to slowly farm it out, or you can just sick it on the enemy laner and hope for the best. Keep in mind that a lot of these creeps have really solid spells and auras, but the fact that they have at least 1000 HP with a big chunk of armor attached to it means that a lot of heroes just straight up can't deal with them. As soon as you get Helm of the Dominator, and in most cases you get it before you even buy boots, you have now won the lane. Because if you're in a 2v2, congrats, you are now tri-laning. The only way to make it even is for the enemy to also buy a Helm of the Dominator, and the way this meta is shaking up, that is going to be a fairly common occurrence for the next month or so. Now, if you've been playing any high-level pubs lately, you might notice that a bunch of different heroes have been going Helm of the Dominator. A lot of that is because of influence at TI. A ton of teams are picking it up. In fact, not only are they getting one Helm of the Dominator, they're getting 2, 3, and in at least one case, 4 Helms of the Dominator spread out across the entire team. That means that you are effectively playing a 5v9 until you have ways of dealing with the creep, or you buy Helms of the Dominator yourself. Pro players are naturally going to be the best at using this strategy, and they have shown us plenty of different ways to abuse Hot D. The most obvious case is just using it to deathball. If you can grab creeps that are decent at hitting towers, especially the hill trolls, you can just curve down lanes and there's really nothing the enemy team can do about it. If they try to show up to stop you, they're not just picking off one hero, they're picking off a hero and their sidekick, which is a lot more difficult. A lot of the creeps have really good auras, like the Alpha Direwolf, that can boost damage or provide utility, and that makes it even harder to stop a deathball powered by Helms of the Dominator. Probably the most annoying use of it, however, is to just stall lanes, because if you're losing the lane, but suddenly you can grab a big old creep to protect you, you're no longer losing the lane. And now the enemy's advantage, if they even had one in the first place, has been wiped out by the ghost creep smacking them from the tree line. As a result, you can use this to turn lost lanes into even lanes, because even if they're a lot stronger than you on paper, they cannot take the tower against you and your little buddy. However, my favorite use, and by which I mean the most terrifying, is from 3-3 on Tundra. The already twice TI winner is using it to cut waves for several minutes at a time because of how annoying it is to go deal with a hill troll stuck between your tier 2 and 3. The Curtis Dota techniques that have been imprinted into 3-3's DNA will remain there forever. I can only imagine he's sitting in the viewer's booth smiling at the monster he helped create. So not only is it tearing up TI, but it's also going to start appearing in your pubs. So go ahead and get ready for a daily dose of Hot D until Valve does their usual post-TI nerf fiesta. Now you're going to be losing to Helm of the Dominator quite a bit, so I suggest that you get with the program and start picking it up yourself. Here are a few tips for how to abuse it the best. First off, do not pick it up as a casual item once you have your boots and your bracers and all that stuff. No. You're not even going to go boots. You can go a magic wand if you want, maybe have some sticks in your inventory. The earlier you get it, the more absolutely imbalanced the creep that you dominate will be. Remember, it has a minimum HP of 1,000. A lot of heroes, by the time that you can get Helm of the Dominator, aren't even pushing 4 digits. This means that its bulk alone, just being a big fat body, will make it an incredible annoyance for your opponent. Now, as soon as you get it, it will become a really good farming item, and if you're a carry, such as Faceless Void, helped popularized by Yatoro, you can immediately use it to start farming ancient camps at level 6. However, if you're anyone else, just use it to obliterate the lane. You don't have to use the creep carefully. As soon as it dies, you can go dominate another one. Hell, you can dominate one before it even dies. A-click the opponents and use whatever spells you can when they're effective. A Centaur Stomp and just a couple of right clicks is enough to draw most heroes out of the lane. In addition, there's a lot of easy camp creeps that are really good. The Chain Lightning from the Harpy is really good, the slow on hit from the Ghost, Plus, the mana burn can be super annoying, so go ahead and grab one of those and just make the Medusa's life a living hell. Outside of the lane, there's also a ton of applications for Helm of the Dominator just as a bunch of fun hero synergies. Marcy is one of the most popular heroes to pick up Hot D for good reason, because she can use it as a rebound target. She no longer needs to partner up with a teammate, she can just run around by herself. Her and her centaur can have all the fun they need. She can even suplex them back into the stomp, which is very flashy if you can pull it off. That's an obvious hero synergy, but there are other characters with auras that are also really good. Keep in mind that if you're playing Vengeful Spirit and you go it will benefit from Vengeance aura. Lycan and Beastmaster both have really good creep-specific auras that work perfectly fine with Helm of the Dominator. I mentioned Faceless Void earlier. You can chrono someone and then just have the ghost hit the guy you chronoed from outside of it, and it will do a shockingly insane amount of damage while also slowing them in the off chance they survive. There's a ton of different ways to abuse this as both a farming and fighting item, and a lot of them are going to depend on the hero that you pick. With that in mind, I highly suggest that you get creative and start experimenting. Try to blink as Magnus and then skewer them back into the Centaur Stomp, for example. Really, any hero you can think of that can go a farming item like this probably has some weird niche tech that they can do. There's too much to talk about right now. But keep in mind that if you don't find it first, someone else will. And if they're on the enemy team, they will be so happy to show you. Now, I've talked a little bit about which creeps can be really good pickups, but I think that there are 3 that particularly stand out. The first is the Croaker, and the Croaker is really good for a bunch of different reasons. The first reason is because it has an amazing active. If you remember when Tidehunter had his old shard, it was just like a very shitty version of Impale. You can now have that on a neutral creep that is tankier than most other heroes in the early game. Grab that, A-click on the enemy team, and if you have an additional stun with you, most heroes can win a man fight in the early game, especially if they have the stats from Hot D itself. On top of that, it also has a really interesting aura that just straight up buffs all of your damage as long as you're inside of water. It also has a massive movement speed boost. These do only have an impact if you're in the water, but keep in mind that the rivers both in the middle of the map and in the jungle count for this. And it won't just affect you, it'll affect the rest of your team. So, in a magical Christmas land scenario, it's an insane damage output boost. The second one that I really like is the big purple centaur. I'm not even going to pretend I know what it's called, but you pick this thing up and not only is it a really tanky body, but it's got an aura that grants you a ton of health regen. This is useful because you already get a lot of tank from the Hot D itself, so now that you have this, you're pretty much unkillable. Plus, you can make it walk up to enemy heroes and Hadouken them to just do a bunch of magical damage for no reason. Remember that the HOTD creep also gets 4 mana regen, meaning that you don't have to worry about running out of mana on this thing. But even if you do, just go dominate another one. Lastly, the Centaur Conqueror is a personal favorite of mine. I think it's so funny, forcing it to walk up to enemy heroes and just do a big ol' offlaner slam on them. It also already has a really big body, so when it gets the boost from Hot D, it's probably the best neutral creep at just tanking towers outright. All 3 of these are excellent options, but again, get creative. Grab whatever you can, use its abilities to the maximum potential. Oh, and a special shout out to the Hill Troll Summoner. Use that, spawn the Skellies twice, and you can pretty much take a tier 2 in the time it takes for them to TP to deal with your dumbass. Now, while Hot D is definitely the flavor of the month at TI right now, its upgraded version, Helm of the Overlord, is relatively ignored. I wrote a little bit about that here, read it if you like. Now let's say you're a Dota 2 purist. You like your Radiances, you like your Maelstroms, you don't care what all these fancy little kids are doing over in Germany. Well, let me tell you this. There are some ways of beating Helm of the Dominator. The best way to do it is to just buy your own. Like, if you both have a big fat creep squaring off against each other, they're not actually that useful because you can't clash them into each other without a serious opportunity cost. And like, yeah, maybe there's a chance for them to get the upper hand on you depending on the creep matchup that you have, but turning the lane into a Pokemon battle is legitimately the best solution I have found for dealing with Hot D. As soon as you see them pick up a crown or a Helm of Iron Will, queue your own up, because if you don't have it and they do, they're going to catch you lacking, and you're going to lose your goddamn tier 1. Now, of course, the simple mind may think, that's a creep. If I buy things or pick heroes that can instantly kill creeps, surely that will work. And you would be freaking wrong, dude. All of the things that you would naturally think are good at countering Hot D just straight up don't work. Midas doesn't work because it counts as a creep hero. The same is true for Dagon, though it does do a little bit of magical damage. And then you have the hero abilities. Devour doesn't work, Death Pact doesn't work, Lifestealer can't go into it unless you have an Aghanim Scepter, which would be the wildest reason to spend 4,200 gold on this hero. All of the straightforward, simple solutions just don't work, and don't even think about using enchant on them. It'll just slow them down and put the ability on cooldown. The real solution is to just try to burst them down with physical damage. Magical damage is an option, but 1,000 of it is a little bit difficult to come by in the early game, and even in the mid game it can be a tall order. I don't want to see you Lina players casting Laguna Blade on a Centaur Conqueror, okay? Just don't do it. Instead, just try to right-click it as best as you can. It will draw creep aggro when you do, but chipping it down just a little bit will make it so much easier to deal with. Now, if you're a true purist and you truly refuse to even entertain the thought of buying a hot D, you just gotta leave the lane. That's all. They're having a ton of fun in the jungle. Why don't you go in there and see how it works out for you? If you're playing a hero that has early jungling capabilities like Wraith King, Luna, it's not that bad. But if you're someone who doesn't, which is the rest of the heroes in the game, you're not going to have very much fun limply smacking a small camp at level 5. However, if you truly do refuse to participate, that's the best that you can do. Some heroes, especially ranged ones, can just sit under their tower, tank whatever incidental damage comes from the creep, and continue to try to CS as normal. But the pressure will eventually get to you, and you're going to have to leave lane eventually. Itemize around that, expect it, and build yourself in such a way that you're able to jungle as soon as you possibly can. As for supports, I don't know. Just do your best. I really don't know what to do as a support player against this item. But I'm sure that they'll figure it out at TI and show it to me later. So I don't know. Watch TI. I guess that's my ultimate piece of advice. See what the pro players do and copy it. But I guarantee you, a lot of them are just going to be buying Helms of the Dominator themselves. In conclusion, Helm of the Dominator is very strong, and until Valve nerfs it, you should buy it as much as you can. The combination of Hot D with Helm of the Undying as the best tier 5 has officially dubbed this the hat meta. Whoever has the better hats wins the game. Peace on planet Earth.